How to specify the return type of a lambda function in C++? In most cases, a lambda function can deduce the return type automatically based on the value returned from it. However, in some cases, the return type of a lambda function is not automatically deducible. In such case, you might need to specify the return type of a lambda function manually while defining it. So in this video, we are going to learn how to do that. And we will also see a specific example where it's must to specify the return type of the lambda function. So let's start with it. So first we will declare a variable that will store the lambda function. So we will say func equals to. Now here we will specify the captcha block. Let's make it empty. And as in the parameters, we will say it accepts an integer value input. Now inside this function body, what we will do, we will first check if the input is less than 10. Then this lambda function will return 1. Whereas if input value is more than 10 or equal to 10, so it will return a double value 4.5. So now we can see this lambda function is returning two different values at the two different instances. In this line number 9, if the input value is less than 10, then it will return an integer value. Whereas at line number 13, if the given input value is not less than 10, then it will return a double value, that is 4.5. So if we try to call this lambda function, and let's suppose we pass 2 here, and we can print the value. So it will give a compile error. Now in the compile error, it's showing that there is an inconsistent type, integer or double. So it cannot deduce, the compiler cannot deduce the return type of the lambda function. So here we need to manually specify the return type of the lambda function. So what we need to do, we need to use the trailing return type syntax like this, and here we can specify the return type. In this particular section, we are specifying the return type of the lambda function. It will be before the function body and after the parameter list. So here we are saying, okay, our lambda function will return integer. So now if we again compile our code and run it, you can see it returned 1 because the input value was less than 10. Now suppose we pass 20 here, and if we run our code again, this time it will give 4. So basically the control will go to the else block, and here it's returning a double value 4.5. But as the return type of the lambda function is integer, so there will be conversion from double to integer. Therefore it returned the value 4. So in these kind of scenarios, when you want to forcefully assign a return value to the lambda function, you can use this. Like in this scenario, it was must. Compiler cannot deduce the return type because you are returning two different types of value inside the lambda function. So you need to specify the return type specifically. But there are certain cases where there will be no compile error. Compiler can deduce it, but still you want to change it. Let's see an example. Remove the return type here. And if we say this if block will return some text, and here in this else block we will say sample. So here we are returning strings, but by default this lambda function will make sure that the return type is const-char pointer. So if we run this code again, so it will return sample here, but internally the return type is const-char pointer. So what if we want it to return std string? For that we can use this trailing return type, and here we will say std string. Now here we are forcing the compiler to return a std string. So we can confirm this by calling the cstr function from here. Now cstr function is a member function of std string. So now if we run this code, there are no compilers and the output will be same, but the lambda function will return std string here, not the default value of const-char pointer. So we can specify the return type of a lambda function using this trailing return type here. So it's basically used at 3 different scenarios. First one is for clarity, and second where it has automatically deduced a data type and it's returning the value based on that data type. But you don't want that. You want it to return it is with a specific data type. So it will do the data conversion before returning it. Like in this case, it was by default returning a cost char pointer, but we made it sure that it returned an std string. Whereas there are certain examples or scenarios where it cannot deduce the return type. In those cases, you need to manually specify the return type, like the first example which we discussed. So that's all for this video. So if you found this video interesting, then subscribe to our channel and press the like button. And also you can refer to our website cppjournal.com for the complete tutorial and the working code examples. Thanks for watching.